It was a typical day for Yokoya, who was sleeping until noon. Suddenly someone rang his doorbell, forcing him to get up. Checking the camera, he saw a maid who looked like an emo version of Violet Evergarden, asking him to employ her as his maid. After letting her in, Yokoya gives her a drink and wonders if she's there to steal his kidneys or sell on drugs. He asks her about her experience as a maid, but she reveals she was an assassin targeting people who rebelled against her master, the same master who sent her here. Yokoya thinks she's joking but gets nervous when he realizes she's serious. He asks about her boss's connection to his family, and she starts rambling about a goldfish that turned into a dog who was a friend of Yaya's mom. Frustrated, Yokoya slaps her hand, but quickly regrets it, worrying he made her mad. He changes the topic and asks her about her assassination methods. They go outside and she performs a backflip and throws knives with expert precision at a tree. Proudly, she explains that knife throwing is just one of her many assassin skills. Yokoya, though impressed, tells her he can't hire an assassin as a maid.
This guy is stupid.
She's disappointed but understands, apologizes, and leaves. As she walks out, Yokoya kneels in disbelief at what just happened, but then he notices something she left behind. Meanwhile, the maid walks away, wondering what to do next. She looks back, expecting Yokoya to follow, but he doesn't. As she crosses a train track, Yokoya calls out, holding the bell she left behind. She turns around just as a train is about to hit him, but she leaps into action, saving him in the nick of time. Yokoya thanks her and she blushes, admitting she's never saved anyone before and that her heart is racing. He hands her the bell and she thanks him before walking away again. However, Yokoya changes his mind and asks for her help with cleaning. Back home, Yokoya is shocked to see the maid unpacking all her knives as she talks about how they could have stopped the rumbling. Yokoya interrupts, explaining he needs help cleaning the house, not fighting titans, but the maid only seems to know how to clean up corpses. Yokoya tries to clarify that housekeeping is a different kind of cleaning. She asks if he'll hire her as long as she does the chores, and he agrees. Later, Yokoya returns to a mess. She's holding a broken mop with a bucket on her head, apologizing profusely. She slips on the wet floor but lands like Spider-Man, the bucket still on her head. Yokoya, seeing this, asks if she's clumsy. Embarrassed, she apologizes again. Yokoya takes the bucket off her head and gives her a towel, assuring her that she can learn and that he'll help. She nods and they continue cleaning. Hours later, the house is spotless and Yokoya praises her for her hard work. He realizes it's time for dinner and asks if she can cook. She looks down, embarrassed, but Yokoya reassures her that he'll cook while she takes a bath. While the maid bathes, she blushes, thinking about Yokoya. Meanwhile, Yokoya is outside, flustered at the thought of a maid bathing just meters away. He imagines her coming out in only a towel, but she returns fully dressed, much to his disappointment. They start dinner and Yokoya watches her chop cabbage with the same precision she used for knife throwing. He prepares ramen and fried pork, but she's confused about what fried pork is. She admits she may have eaten it before but never cared much about food. For her, eating is just to sustain life and flavors aren't important. Yokoya confidently tells the maid that one bite of fried pork will make her react like she's in Food Wars. As they split the meal, he realizes he doesn't know her name. The maid explains she has no name, as her master usually assigns one. Yokoya decides to name her later. After her first bite, the maid struggles to understand what tasty means, but this time she feels warmth inside and tells Yokoya that his cooking is delicious. She confides that both the food and his kindness make her feel cared for, though he doesn't catch her meaning and instead tells her he has prepared a room for her. This makes her remember her bloody past but feel hopeful for the future. Later, Yokoya wakes up from a nightmare hungry. Heading to the kitchen, he's startled to find the maid secretly snacking on tonkatsu sauce. They freeze and she apologizes for being a sauce addict. Yokoya reassures her and suggests they share a late-night hot pot, which she enjoys. During the meal, the maid asks about his nightmares. Yokoya admits he has dreams about his mother leaving him, which embarrasses him. The maid shares that she heard him sleep-talking and entered his room ready to protect him, only to find him crying in his sleep. She lightens the mood by sharing her own strange dream about the tonkatsu sauce speaking to her. It's the first time she dreamt about something other than assassination, and she wished the dream had continued. She's upset she couldn't comfort Yokoya in his nightmare. Yokoya explains he cries in his dreams if he wakes up without his mother's lap. Hearing this, the maid offers her lap for him to rest on. Yokoya initially refuses, making her sad, but he soon changes his mind and lies down. As they sit there, both feel warmth and comfort. Yokoya looks up at her, realizes she's gazing back, and falls asleep on her lap, finally at peace. She felt her heart race, a feeling she usually only experienced when facing dozens of enemies. But this time it was different. After taking care of the garbage, Yokoya came down and thanked her. Outside the house, they spotted an abandoned puppy with a note explaining that the previous owner couldn't handle how big the puppy would grow and thought someone wealthy could take care of it. He decided to keep the puppy, reasoning it wouldn't survive alone. Yuki, however, questioned the decision, believing that saving a life out of pity had consequences, and asked if he was willing to bear them. Yokoya reminded her that she had saved him once and she had no response. He explained that sometimes it's instinct to save others, and he knew what it felt like to be abandoned. Yuki, still traumatized by past experiences with dogs, kept her distance from the puppy. Yokoya, noticing her fear, gently assured her that they could care for the pup together. She tried to get close to the puppy, but her fear held her back. Eventually, Yokoya took her to a pet shop to buy supplies. As the sun set and they headed home, Yuki reflected on his kindness, something she'd never experienced in her violent, blood-filled past. She started to wonder how she could be useful to him now that her old life as an assassin seemed distant. Later, Yokoya gently encouraged her, telling her to stop worrying about her mistakes. He reminded her it was her first time doing chores and that it was okay to fail. She began to slice cabbage for dinner and the playful puppy wandered in. Though still hesitant, she fed the puppy and Yokoya suddenly came up with a hard-to-pronounce name for the fluffball. Despite the odd name, she liked it because Yokoya had thought of it. That night, Yokoya complimented her for her efforts, which made her feel valued. She grew more determined to overcome her fears, even reaching out to pat the puppy. As the day passed, Yuki observed Yokoya's kindness. She had never encountered someone like him in her world, a world full of bloodshed. This was the first time she had experienced such compassion. However, each time she tried something, she failed, which made her question how she could be useful to him. In her previous world, if someone wasn't useful, they were replaced like pawns. But now all the things she had done to get to this point seemed meaningless. She reflected on how if she had met Yokoya earlier, she might have learned how to be useful to him in a different way. Yokoya noticed her inner turmoil and suggested that perhaps she wanted to leave her old life behind, which meant quitting her role as an assassin and becoming normal, a thought that had never occurred to her. Yokoya opened up, admitting that he had been scared of her at first. But after spending time with her, he realized he had been wrong. This reminded Yuki of her childhood, and she longed to become a normal girl again. During dinner, she acted like a child in front of the delicious food, finishing it quickly. Yokoya offered to make more, but Yuki, not wanting to bother him, shyly declined, even though her body language said otherwise. He continued to teach her how to live a normal life, encouraging her to ask for anything she needed. Finally, Yuki asked him for a name. He asked for her birth date, but she didn't know it. However, she remembered being born on a day of heavy snow, so Yokoya named her Yuki, meaning snow. The name reminded her of her dark and cold past, but Yokoya shared his own view. He explained how snow keeps the seeds and earth warm, allowing life to sprout in the spring. This metaphor made her reflect on the warmth Yokoya brought into her life. Little by little, a genuine, heartwarming love was growing between them, making her truly happy. We see how Yuki plays with the dog when Hitoyoshi approaches and asks for her help, revealing he wants to get his ears pierced but lacks the courage. Yuki agrees but hesitates when she tries mentioning some sort of ritual might be involved. At that moment, Hitoshi's sister Riko arrives, and surprised to see Yuki and impressed by how clean the house is, she playfully scolds Hitoshi for not mentioning such a beautiful maid, teasingly hitting him. Riko, feeling shy, compliments Yuki's looks, which makes Hitoshi blush. Riko introduces herself and asks about Yuki's name. Yuki explains that she didn't have a name before, so Hitoshi gave her one. Riko, intrigued, asks for Yuki's autograph, and when Yuki writes it, both Riko and Hitoshi are shocked by her unusual handwriting. Riko, still intrigued, asks Yuki to show some of her skills, and Hitoshi warns her not to go overboard. Yuki impresses Riko by slicing an apple on her head, prompting more questions about Yuki's knife skills and arsenal. Yuki explains she used to own 16 knives, but now has only 5. Riko excitedly says she'd love to see Yuki's special dish, but Yuki admits she doesn't have one, although she's skilled at cutting. They head out to eat, and while eating, Riko learns about the festival and suggests they all go together. Hitoshi asks Yuki if she's ever attended a festival, mentioning her favorite sauce will be there, which excites her. At the festival, they enjoy exploring various stalls, starting with a shooting game. Yuki tries, but isn't great at it, commenting that shooting isn't her priority. However, when they move on to fishing, Yuki excels, impressing Riko, who asks for lessons. The shopkeeper praises Riko's talented sister, which makes Yuki feel appreciated. They later visit Yuki's favorite sauce shop, where she enjoys the food so much she packs some to take home. However, she chokes while eating, and Riko rushes to get her a drink. Yuki remarks that she never realized festivals could be so fun. Hitoshi asks about her previous festival experiences, and Yuki solemnly replies that they usually involve being sent to kill people. This revelation causes a brief silence, which is soon broken by the start of the fireworks. The three of them drink together, enjoying the fireworks, and Yuki feels genuinely happy. Seeing her joy, Hitoshi blushes. On their way home, a speeding biker who has just stolen a purse nearly crashes into them. Yuki quickly saves Riko, while Hitoshi angrily yells at the reckless rider. Furious Yuki decides to chase the thief, sprinting through the city at incredible speed, leaping between buildings and eventually throwing 2 knives at the bike's tires, causing it to crash. As the thief falls, Yuki approaches with a knife, intimidating him. Hitoshi arrives and begs her not to harm the thief. Instead, Yuki slaps him on the head and lets him go, surprising the crowd. Yuki asks Hitoshi if she's becoming normal, to which he responds by suggesting they buy more sauce. Later, Riko explains that the school is where people study, make friends, and join clubs. Yuki seems intrigued, and Hitoshi wondering why he never asked her age, he suggests her to try going to school and making friends. The next day, with summer vacation over, Hitoshi sits in class worried about how Yuki is doing alone. His friend enters talking about a new incredibly skilled maid in town, and Hitoshi panics, realizing they're discussing Yuki. He nervously remembers how she spent the summer with Riko, gathering attention. Just then, the teacher introduces a new transfer student. To Hitoshi's shock, it's none other than Yuki. As she introduces herself to the class, Hitoshi is left stunned with his eyes wide with disbelief. The next day, Hitoshi's class is in for a surprise when Yuki is introduced as a transfer student claiming to be his cousin. Later, Riko arrives to pick them up, and Hitoshi realizes she orchestrated the entire setup. Riko had taught Yuki nearly everything, which Yuki mastered in just 3 days. Hitoshi wonders how Yuki ended up in the same class using cousin as a cover. Yuki reveals she enrolled with the help of a connection and thought being in his class would make it easier to serve him. Though initially startled, Hitoshi decides to let it go, ready to enjoy school life together. The next day at lunch, the crowd rushes to buy food, a rare treat wrapped in noodles that catches Yuki's attention. Though it's sold far from their class, Yuki, determined to get it, sets off with her mission face. She uses her agility to arrive at the store, quickly grabbing the last piece. Since it's 1 per person, she buys another bread for Hitoshi, who happily gives her the bread to try first. She's so pleased that she even feeds him a bite, making Hitoshi blush. That night, Riko decides to stay over, jokingly jealous that Hitoshi gets to sleep near Yuki every day. She's eager for girly talk and shares her dream of having a big sister. Playfully, she suggests if Hitoshi marries Yuki, she'll finally have the big sister she always wanted. Riko believes Yuki has feelings for Hitoshi, but he brushes it off, thinking Yuki isn't interested in romance. Riko insists she might be right and that their mother would approve, but their father might not. She asks Yuki directly if she likes Hitoshi, to which Yuki replies she deeply admires him. Hitoshi, embarrassed, nearly faints. During the conversation, Riko notices Yuki doesn't wear makeup, yet looks beautiful, which Yuki attributes to her favorite sauce. Riko admires Yuki's natural beauty, and Yuki reassures her that she's perfect, as she is making Riko happy. Seeing Yuki adapt to daily life so well with Riko's help, Hitoshi realizes just how much she's grown. Later during class, Hitoshi is sleepy from Riko's week-long stay. When a teacher throws a piece of chalk at him, Yuki skillfully slices it in mid-air, but the piece accidentally hits him in the eye. Hitoshi is sent to the nurse, only to find a temporary nurse, Nita, who flirts with him while examining his eye. This guy is leading a dream. Nita, amused by Yuki's cousin's story, suddenly locks the door, intending to scare Hitoshi. Before things escalate, Yuki bursts in, breaking the lock. She pulls Hitoshi protectively to her side, telling Nita to stay away. Nita, somewhat entertained, backs off. Later, Yuki apologizes to Hitoshi for being forceful, prompting him to assume she's about to confess her feelings. However, Yuki instead warns him that Nita is an assassin who could threaten their peaceful life. The nurse turned out to be a dangerous assassin with an unusual dream to create a reverse harem and live peacefully with her boys on Santorini Island. To achieve that, she took high-profile assassination jobs and had targeted Yuki for her next kill. Killing Yuki would bring her a fortune, but it wasn't going to be easy. Yuki's real name was Schwan, and after this encounter she refused to leave Yokoya's side. Her constant presence, even at night, made it difficult for him to sleep, but Yuki insisted on guarding him until she could solve the issue. To make things less awkward, she decided to sleep beside him, though it only added to the complications. Yokoya, however, was also concerned. He feared for Yuki's safety, knowing she might become a target. Yuki remained confident, believing she could take down any threat even in her sleep. Back when she had only 1 knife, she had been nervous, but now, well-equipped, she was prepared. She suspected Grace, the assassin nurse, might use underhanded tactics. He had given her kindness and warmth she'd never experienced before, and she was determined to protect him at all costs. One night, as she opened a window to cool the room, the smell of sauce filled the air. It was a distraction to kidnap Yokoya. Grace took Yokoya hostage, leaving a note for Yuki to meet her at the school at 2 a.m. Yuki's mentor's words echoed in her mind, "You were born to kill." She felt responsible for dragging Hitoyoshi into her dangerous world and resolved to save him even if it meant killing Grace. Afterward, she planned to disappear from his life and live as Schwan once more. At the school, Grace had tied Yokoya up in a provocative manner, but Hitoyoshi stayed calm, saying he believed in Yuki. His unwavering faith made him seem like a naive hamster in Grace's eyes. She revealed Yuki's true identity to him, calling her a butcher and the fourth-ranking member of Dragon, the most powerful assassin organization in the world. She explained that killing a Dragon N member would skyrocket her reputation and wealth. However, the Yuki Yokoya knew was clumsy, childish, and obsessed with katsudan sauce. Grace had observed them for weeks, and even she struggled to reconcile the ruthless assassin with the goofy girl before her. When Yuki arrived, she displayed her skill by cutting a bullet in half with her knife. Grace used landmines to catch her off guard, but Yuki evaded them effortlessly. Frustrated, Grace activated automatic snipers aimed at Yokoya limbs, threatening to maim him if Yuki made a wrong move. But Yuki leaped into action, deflecting bullets with her knives and disabling the snipers by throwing a knife into Grace's phone. It was a move that cemented her reputation as the White Wolf, a legendary assassin. Cornered, Grace panicked and rambled about how others would come for Yuki just as she had. Yuki admitted that she once believed she had no life outside of killing, but Yokoya had changed her perspective. Determined to protect her newfound life, Yuki spared Grace and walked away. On the way home, Yuki apologized to Hitoyoshi for involving him in her dangerous past and offered to leave if he wished. Instead, he surprised her by asking to learn self-defense so he could protect her in the future. His words filled Yuki's heart with joy. She realized she wouldn't have to part ways with him after all. Their daily life resumed. Yuki quickly became popular at school, excelling in volleyball and impressing both girls and boys with her beauty and athleticism. While others admired her, Yokoya focused on the memories of her secret life as an assassin. Her warm smile, directed at him, made him the target of jealous boys. During one volleyball match, a ball flew directly toward him, but a new PE teacher stepped in to save him. To his surprise, the teacher turned out to be Grace, who had disguised herself and taken the position to observe Yuki and Yokoya. Yuki immediately demanded to know her intentions. She explained she had no plans to harm them, but wanted to observe the legendary assassin who now served a normal kid like Hitoyoshi. To gain their trust, she offered them 3 months' worth of katsudan bread, an irresistible deal for Yuki. Grace promised not to harm them, following the Assassin Society's rule against targeting normal people. Her real motive seemed to be the katsudan bread, but she stayed close, making Yuki uncomfortable by whispering to Yokoya. Yuki's emotions unintentionally came through during volleyball when she delivered a fiery spike. At lunch, she sulked while eating katsudan bread, feeling jealous of Hitoyoshi interactions with someone from the underworld. Grace, noticing Yuki's feelings, teased Yokoya about her jealousy. Yuki's behavior was proof that she was becoming more normal each day, waking up early, making coffee, and even successfully using the washing machine for the first time. Small victories like these filled her with joy. Later, Hitoyoshi thought about dinner plans and realized they had cabbage in the fridge. Yuki suggested fried pork cutlets with katsudan sauce. They visited a katsudan shop where Yuki couldn't hide her excitement. The elderly owner, skilled with a knife, reminded Yuki of an assassin, but her joy was genuine as she thanked the shop's granny for making such delicious sauce. Yuki revealed that before meeting Yokoya, she only ate tasteless food, and the sauce taught her that food could bring happiness. That night, Yokoya reflected on how even small things made Yuki happy. He wanted to learn more about her, but was hesitant to ask, fearing it might bring back painful memories. He remembered his own trauma, his mother's abandonment, and the ending of Ashi no Kyo, and he woke from a nightmare to find himself in Yuki's arms. Embarrassed, he tried to distance himself, but Yuki offered her lap as a pillow again. Yokoya's phone fell, revealing he had been searching for information on Dragon N. Yuki noticed and explained that she knew little about the organization. She was chosen by her master and followed orders, focusing only on survival. She avoided learning more about Dragon N, fearing she'd lose her place to stay. Yuki confessed that her current experience is ordinary. Everyday life felt dazzling and new. Hitoyoshi made her realize she could change and live a normal life, which made her happy. Hitoyoshi thanked her for staying with him despite everything, expressing his gratitude for her presence in his life. Yuki then shared that she liked when Yokoya rested on her lap. The first time it happened, she realized she could provide comfort and help him. In his nightmare, he saw his mother leaving him, but Yuki's embrace in reality soothed his pain.